Hello everyone, Neil back once again with another streaming review for you, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Ozark Season 4 Part 2 on Netflix. So the final 7 episodes of this very tense drama with brilliant performances and an ending that will likely satisfy fans of the series, I'd say. So right off the bat, of course, I have to say spoilers. Spoiler alert, because I am going to spoil the shit out of this show. And so, the final 7 episodes, well, picks up where we left off. Ruth is on the warpath since Javier murdered her cousin Wyatt and his new wife Darlene. Marty warns Ruth not to attempt to kill Javi, but she does avenge Wyatt by shooting Javi eventually in an office with Marty and Wendy and Claire present. Now, this may mess up the arrangement with the FBI, so, Marty's obviously very worried about that. He actually winds up going down to Mexico and running the cartel for a little bit. Also, Wendy's father, Nathan, he shows up to look for Ben, who is quite dead. And we do get a look at Ben's last moments in a flashback, actually, with Nelson there, shooting him, killing him at the end. Camila, Javier's mother and Navarro's sister, is trying to have Navarro, the head of the cartel, killed, and she eventually succeeds as he's being transferred to another facility to Mexico, which, doesn't happen. He gets killed along the way. Nathan convinces the kids, Jonah and Charlotte, to come back with him to Carolina. This, of course, destroys Wendy. Ruth winds up teaming up with Rachel, who comes back here, and she winds up inheriting Darlene's stake in the casino, and it's kind of basically a takeover. When Marty shows up, he reminds Ruth that, the cartel still runs things. They don't have all the power, despite what they think. Nelson, the bodyguard, he actually goes to Ruth's trailer to presumably kill her, since he was following her that day. But Rachel is actually there. Ruth isn't there at the time, so Rachel's there. Ruth calls her and warns her, and Rachel winds up shooting Nelson dead, and then he's buried under Ruth's new pool. So yes, Wendy has a breakdown after losing her kids to her father, so she winds up admitting herself to a psychiatric hospital, but she comes out of it when the kids come around, and they wind up deciding to stay with their parents after it's revealed that really Nathan just wanted to take them out of spite, just because he hated his own daughter. And when they realized that, that he didn't really care about them, they decided to go back to their parents naturally. And they get Wendy out of that hospital. And as they're driving back, they get into this car accident, which was foreshadowed at the start of the season. They all wind up being okay. And then later at the fundraiser for the birds, Camila shows up and very slyly coerces Claire into revealing that Ruth is the one that killed Javi. Now, previously, it was thought that it was Navarro that killed Javi, as a show of strength and power, because Javier was basically betraying him. But that was all BS. Obviously, it was Ruth, and now Camila knows that it was Ruth. So, yeah, clock's ticking on Ruth's life right away, is what we're thinking. And there's an important point, though, here, is that Claire actually doesn't reveal the bird's involvement in Javi's death. So that's interesting. That's, at least she didn't spill all the beans. Now, Camila actually prevents the birds from warning Ruth, and then Ruth is later shot by Camila. Before she dies, she says she's not sorry for what she did. She really was avenging Wyatt. We can't really blame her for doing it. We already knew she was capable of killing. She's already killed her other family members, a couple of them. So Ruth, I mean, she was a great character, but, none of these characters are really saints in the end, so, there's some sympathy there, certainly, but in the end, a lot of these characters do get their comeuppance. There's always consequences for what they do, and murder and whatnot, so, yeah. Well, for most characters, anyway. Now, when the birds get home, they find that Mel, who's this private investigator that was hired by Nathan to find Ben, he never really gave up. I mean, the audience kind of forgot about this character, and then he shows up at the very end of part 2 of the final season, and they find that he's broken in, and he's taken the cookie jar that Ruth had, and it contains Ben's ashes. So that's evidence that they had been cremated, and they know that he's dead. So you think, oh, one more obstacle for the birds to deal with, one more horrible, thing to deal with here. So they freak out. They offer him money, but then the camera shifts over, and we see Jonah cocking the shotgun and pointing it right at Mel, the detective. And the scene cuts to black as a shot is heard. And that's it. That's how it ends. So the family now, they're accustomed to this violent life. At the beginning of this whole series, they were constantly in fear, obviously, of being killed, naturally. And what winds up happening is that they become the ones who now instill fear. So it's an amazing, progression for these characters in this family. How they've gone from, Chicago yuppies, basically, troubled family, to, this criminal family now. They've gotten used to the life. So this is who they are now. So there you go. I thought that was pretty satisfying. They've kind of, they've kind of fallen in love with the violent criminal life, you could say. They fall into the dark side, but they're also closer now as a family. And I guess that's just how it works out for them. There's a couple of things that I was kind of like, meh, in terms of like the car accident scene, which they foreshadowed, as I said, and then when it happens, you're just like, oh my god, are they okay? It looks like Wendy's maybe not okay, but they all survive okay, and it just seemed a little unnecessary to me. I'm not sure, why they really needed it so much, but in the end, it just, was another scene to bring them closer together as a family, I guess. Maybe make their unit a bit stronger that way, I guess. But they had already come back together, so after the kids rejected Nathan. So I was a little confused. It was a little bit like, okay, well, I don't know why we needed that scene. But I guess, at least we got the explanation of kind of what happened in the end with that rollover, So, the somewhat abrupt ending, it might not be for everyone's liking, it might not be to everyone's liking, but I did think that it was a good choice. To cut to black, and after you hear the shotgun, your mind just goes, oh, that's it. I mean, they've totally crossed the line. I mean, you could say they already have, certainly, but at this point, I don't think they're ever come back to being a normal, law-abiding family ever again. I mean, they're just too much, conditioned into the life, the criminal life. So I gotta say, Ozark, it got better with every single season. Hats off to Jason Bateman and all the producers and creative team and all the actors on the show. Laura Linney and Julia Garner are amazing, and they both deserve all the awards in the world. So does Jason Bateman, in fact, for that matter. He's a fantastic director. Laura Linney actually got to direct one episode, so that was nice to see, and she did a very good job, of course. And yeah, it was a pretty darn good show, and I'm really glad that I invested my time in this. Originally people just told me about it, and it was really overhyped, and the first season was a little rough at first. I was like, I don't know about this show. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a little too much like Breaking Bad, except with a family all in on it, from the start, basically, more or less. But, because things got worse and worse and worse, and, how can things get worse and worse and worse and more tense? And it was very, very well done, though. Clever writing, I gotta say. So, I'm going to give Ozark Season 4, Part 2, the very end, a 9 out of 10. Because, yeah, I mean, it's almost perfect. And definitely look forward around award season once again. Because it should be showered with nominations and awards and whatnot. So, yep. Ozark, darn good show. Definitely check it out on Netflix. That's all for me, guys. This is Neil signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in to this streaming review. Until next time, peace.